the thing that I will probably miss the least when we are in Sticks and Bricks again, at least part of the year, is the fact that I've been on the road full time with my husband Justin for the past year and a half in our RV, a 32-foot Class C. It's mostly been wonderful. We've had the trip of a lifetime, but recently we've been looking at potentially getting some land and or buying a house, building a house, getting a Sticks and Bricks again, and transitioning to part-time RV life. We're not looking to quit RV life, but we're thinking we might do the thing where we spend the winter in one spot and then we travel over the summer or vice versa, do a heavy part-time schedule. And as we're moving to that, I have been thinking a lot about the things that are part of my everyday as a full-timer that I will not miss, that I will be happy to have a respite from. And I was thinking that I'd share some of them with you today, so if you're looking into getting into RV life, you can have that information. And these aren't typically the things that most people think of. These are things that only kind of crop up after a while. This is a little bit more granular, a little bit more TMI, a little bit more everyday. So, the first thing that gets really old is how much you have to pay attention to when other people shower. So in an RV, you can take showers, but every RV has a certain tank size. So for us, we can go about 4 showers before we have to dump our gray tank. We've experimented with leaving the gray tank open, but we found it's more of a memory drain to have to remember, okay, I'm gonna dump the black tank now. I need to have enough gray water, and to go through this mental math where all of a sudden we have to close it up for the shower to dump. So for us, every 4 showers, we dump the gray water. And for us, it kind of comes out to our black tank needs to be dumped every other time we do the gray tank. So thing is though, every 4 showers, what does that mean? Well, there's 2 of us. And Justin tends to do the tank maintenance, mostly because it would be too confusing if we were both trying to count showers and both trying to monitor how long it takes the tanks to fill up. So Justin does that. So he is paying attention to when I'm showering. He's adding it to his mental tally. And I'll have times where I won't know if we're at 3 or 4 showers, and we both work full time. We're remote employees on the road. So sometimes during the middle of the day, and I'll really want to take a shower just because I want to take a shower or because I want to do some on camera work for this channel or one of my other channels or a call for my business. I run my own business, that's what I do. And Justin will be on a conference call for his work, for his day job, and I won't be able to interrupt that and ask him, hey, can I take a shower? So I'll be like, what do I do? Like, I'll be thinking, well, do I go off and risk taking a shower and risk filling up the gray water tank or overflowing into the shower and having this nasty situation for myself? Or do I try to interrupt him and potentially embarrass him at work? Do I wait until he's done? Do I go to the shower house at the campground? Back when I lived in an apartment or in a house, I could just go take a shower and I didn't have to think about it at all. Now, new RVs typically come with sensors. We have sensors on our control panel, and ostensibly they tell us when our tanks are full, but as anyone who has RV'd for any length of time know, the tank sensors are one of the first things that fail. Our gray ones work pretty well, our black one's a little funky, but at the same time we don't really want to rely on it. Typically the 4 shower system works really well for Justin, and that takes a cooperation that we don't normally have to do in Sticks and Bricks. Maybe that was a little TMI, but it's different. The second thing I will not miss is having to use a step stool to get up in bed. Now, this is going to depend on what model RV you get, how tall you are, how long your legs are, but with our RV, our queen size bed is raised up off the floor, and underneath is a bunch of vital equipment for the RV. It's a way that they've kind of incorporated it into the model without sacrificing floor space by elevating our bed. Under there is our freshwater tank and our circuit breaker. Justin, it doesn't really matter. He's on the outside when we sleep. He's also really tall. It's not a big deal for him, but for me, I'm crammed into the corner. I got to use this folding step stool to get in. And I'll tell you, at the end of a really long day, I'm like, okay, time to do the acrobatics again. Time to do this. Some days it's one of the hardest things I do is getting up into that bed. You know, it's really funny. Just, especially if you're really tired, it's like, oh man, I'm looking forward to being able to go and just collapse onto my bed. I haven't been able to do that for a year and a half. It's not too hard. I've gotten the hang of it. I mean, it was weird at first. Now it's almost like a weird dance move, but it would be nice some days. And the next thing I'm not going to miss is also related to the bed. So again, this is going to depend on your RV model, but we do not have walk around space on both sides of the bed, not enough to make the bed easily. And back in the day, back when we were sticks and bricks, I was the one who made the bed every day. And we found that when we got here, it is just really, really hard for me. There are a few kind of clever ways you can do it. You can use a pole, a broom, things like that. I still am not great at doing that. So what we end up doing a lot is Justin makes the bed because he is very tall. He's over 6 feet tall. I think he's like 6'2", and he has those long arms and he can do it. And I sort of hate that because we had our whole system of how we split chores before we went on the road, and bed making was one of my chores. So I feel bad about that, especially coupled with the fact that Justin's a lot better with auto repair and house repair, although I'm a decent assistant, and the fact that Justin is the one who is much better at driving the rig. I've only driven the rig a little tiny bit. It makes me sometimes anxious that I'm not doing my part, and I really would love to be able to take on an easy task that I could normally do, but unfortunately I can't do that. That said, I do a lot of other things. You know, I'm dishes, trash, floor duty, things like that. I do all of our laundry, but you know, that was something I was like, oh, come on, I want to be able to make the bed. Just such a simple thing. I hate that. I will not miss it. The next thing I won't miss is power management. So again, like all of these, it'll really depend on what rig you get, but we are in a 30 amp rig, and a 32-foot 30 amp rig is kind of an interesting power distribution. So that's a lot of square feet for 30 amps, but we do have two ACs, two air conditioners. Now, if we run both ACs at once, we're at like 26 amps. We're almost maxed out on power. And sometimes if it's really hot out, and you know, we've had a hot summer the last couple of years here, we've had to run both ACs straight out. Now, our microwave also takes like 12 or 13 amps. Our little electric kettle is 10 amps. There's some other things that are power hungry. So if we're going to use the microwave, we need to turn off the AC, you know, same thing with the kettle. And we always have to remember to do that. And something like a hairdryer really hasn't been worth it to us because it would be such an inconvenience to use it. And for the most part, we can wait for our hair to dry. It's the kind of budgeting that I never had to do in sticks and bricks. I never had to think, okay, well, if the AC is on, I can't run the microwave. I need to make sure that's off before I do that, or I'll flip the breaker or potentially damage the rig. And we've managed it really well. We've actually never gone over it. We've always remembered. We're both very methodical about it, but I'm definitely not going to miss it. It would be so nice to just kind of go through and be able to run everything at once if I wanted to and not have to think about that ever. The next thing I won't miss is when rude neighbors cut across our yard. So in the world of RV etiquette, sometimes the way campgrounds are laid out, it'll be easier to cut across a spot. And some places will say, no, even if it's empty, you do not cut across a spot. That is very rude. I'm a little bit more lax in the way that I view this. I think, you know, if there's nobody parked in a spot and it's a long way around, then fine, you can cut across an empty campsite. But it's extremely rude to cut across somebody's campsite instead of walking around if they're camping there. And unfortunately, we have seen that not all the time, but enough that it gets very annoying. Especially for me, I work right here usually, right in front of the window, and I'm on the couch on my laptop and I'm sitting there and I'm working, and I'll see somebody cutting across the lawn and it'll scare the living daylights out of me, like, because there's somebody right there, like, ah! And it's just, it's so annoying. When we were in an apartment, we didn't have a lawn, so that wasn't happening. But when we had a house back in the day, we were in a really tight suburb, and every now and then, you know, a neighbor kid would kick a ball over or something, you need to get it. But the kids in our neighborhood were generally really polite, and they would ask us before they went to get it. Their parents did right by them. But like on the road, we run into all kinds of people who don't realize that, people who don't care. And it's been people of all ages too. It's not just children. I've seen grown people, grown adults doing it. It's like, what are you doing? That's one of the cardinal things. You're cutting across somebody's space. You're in somebody's space. But what are you going to do? Yes, I know it's a little bit, get off my lawn, like literally, but it wears on you after a while. It's kind of like, this is annoying. So I won't miss that. I'll like having more of a space that people don't feel entitled to use when they're feeling lazy, essentially. It's really weird for me too, because as many of y'all know, I am not a small woman, and it is no problem for me to not have to walk through. It's just like, I'm a big lady and I'm not this lazy, but I mean, perhaps some people could have disabilities and stuff, but these look like really like fit people. Like these are really fit people and like children and stuff. And it's like, what do you just walk around, walk around. I do it. I'm 40 something big lady, but what are you gonna do? The next thing that I will not miss is that feeling of dread and anxiety every time that there are severe thunderstorms on the weather forecast anywhere near us. You know, it can be scary with the high winds and everything. RVs flip in them. The hail really damages the roof. If you get a tornado situation, that's even dangerous in a house. We don't have a basement. A lot of places there are shelters and things we can go to, but it is a big hassle, especially as we're going from place to place and we don't necessarily know the area. If we see that weather forecast, we've really got to get on it and research where we would go. It's a constant hassle where if we were in one spot, especially if we had a basement, we would have place to shelter in place during high winds, during tornado watches, that sort of thing. And we wouldn't have to worry quite as much about hail damaging the vehicle roof. Maybe we would have a garage covered parking situation for our cars and such. But it's something we've been dealing with. Thankfully, Justin's really good at monitoring the weather. We've had some hail here and there, but we've been shielded by trees a few times when we had it, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I will not miss that. I will enjoy the extra protection that comes with not living in a vehicle. And finally, the thing that I will probably miss the least when we are in sticks and bricks again, at least part of the year, is the fact that in this rig, every time Justin shifts his weight, moves around, even bounces his leg when he's thinking, I can feel it. Actually, that literally happened one time. He'd gotten up early to work and he was in his bunk office. He was working there. I was still in bed and I woke up and I thought that there was an earthquake. I actually pulled out my phone and I started looking up to see what the seismic activity was. We were actually on the West Coast at the time because Justin was shaking his leg. He was thinking. He was bouncing his leg. Now, this is going to depend on your rig. I hear some of the buses are more stable, but for a lot of the Class Cs and a lot of the trailer models, they really do transmit that movement, and you will be surprised. Anytime anybody moves, you can feel it. And that is not the case in an apartment or a house. Unless somebody's really stomping around, a lot of times you just don't have that awareness. So I'm really going to enjoy that feeling of not necessarily knowing what Justin's up to and him not knowing what I'm up to during the day when we're working or just want a little bit of alone time, you know? That even more than the space, right? Because in our situation, we have the big one long open room. Somebody can be out here. And then we have the bedroom and the bathroom back there, the back third. If you close the door, the pocket door in there, you don't have to be anywhere near each other. Like we've done that where we wanted some space where one of us go in there and read and chill and hang out in the bedroom, but you can still feel each other moving. So you still have this awareness. You never really feel like you're alone. But given all that, I have had a blast on the road, and as I mentioned, we are looking to do it part-time, so none of this would really deter me, but these are the things that kind of wear on you after a while. You know, I've made peace with it. Like I said, it's been really worth it. We've had a wonderful time. We've also figured out where we want to buy some land or get a house. So it's been awesome and incredible, but yeah, it has its quirks, and I think it's good to know those things going in. And I'll tell you, I never heard anybody talk about these things before I got into this, and we watched a lot of YouTube. Yeah, especially the climbing up into bed and how annoying it is with the transmission of movement. Those were the two that I heard nobody talk about, and the other stuff a little bit, but not very much, and not to the degree that it actually impacts you every day when you're full-timing. So many people are focused on the dream, the fantasy of RV life. It's like, yeah, it's really cool. It is literally that cool. The highs are that high, but there are things that come along with it. I think it's good to be honest about that. Anyway, it was great talking to you as always. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.